Do you believe a child can be evil? Nightman is currently streaming on Shudder. It was written and directed by Melanie Deloy, who's done projects like The Estate. Check out her IMDb page for the full list of her work, and is based on an original screenplay by Elsa Marpeau. If I mispronounce either of those names, I do apologize. And Zara Devlin, no relation to Jordan Devlin or J.D. McDonough, for those of you that didn't watch NXT UK, i.e., most of the goddamn human race that's still around. That's a deep cut for wrestling fans. She plays Alex, a young woman that goes along with her boyfriend or significant other or husband or possibly just, a partner that she just found along the side of the road and said, yeah, I'll get with you. In all seriousness, Mark Huberman plays Damien. Obviously, that name wouldn't have any horror connotations. Why would you ever think that? Look, Damien, it's all for you. No, we don't get any Omen-like stuff, at least not entirely. So, Alex and Damien go to Damien's mother's house. She is indisposed. She's in institution, and she basically will not be coming home. They go to the old house, and Damien and Alex are going to have a good life until, Damien starts sleepwalking, bodies start piling up, and Alex suspects that maybe it could be Damien. It could be the man she sleeps with, the man that she wants to call her own. With a name like Damien, how could you not trust him? Am I taking the piss out of this goddamn movie too much already? Look, there's a decent little idea here and a few neat little nuggets that could have been expanded on and might have worked. And I will say the performances are all right, all things considered. Also, Mrs. Miller, who plays the mother, is played by Maeve Leonard. And there are a couple other actors that I can't really say I've heard, much from as far as like anything, big projects, but whatever. Everybody's got to start somewhere. So, basically, now Alex must solve this mystery before everybody in her life is history, i.e. the few characters that are around Nightman, Tails, woohoo. So, yeah, that's pretty much your lot right there. Look, when it comes to Shudder original content or content that Shudder just gets from other countries, it's a pick and mix bag. I will say it starts out all right, even if it's pretty much about, same as it ever was. Alex obviously has a troubled past as well, and Damien's past comes rumbling up. None of this is surprising, though. It also feels a little bit inconsistent as far as how it's telling the story, because it will introduce things and it'll just kind of leave them by the wayside and just go for the obvious. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, but this movie was an hour and I think it was an hour and 38 minutes before the credits started rolling. You could have easily cut out 15 goddamn minutes. There were points, nightmare sequences, or there's points where people were running around, Alex was taking jogs in the woods, and other things where you could have easily cut down 15 minutes. And at least it would have made the movie shorter. It would have tightened things up and would have gotten to the bloody point a little bit quicker. I will say Zara does her best and actually shows potential as a future leading lady. She also has very, very beautiful blue eyes. And Mark does fine as Damien. And Melanie shows potential as a horror director, psychological horror, what have you. The thing is, this concept is so basic. We've seen it done before time and time again. It just doesn't click. It doesn't gel. And I started to get more annoyed with the stupidity of the characters. One big thing, how in the world would Alex have not known anything about Damien's past if they have been together for as long as they have? I mean, it doesn't just seem like a whirlwind romance. I'm not saying they've been together for like 20,000 years, but if you've been together with somebody even for a year or two, you should know more about them instead of being surprised by so many things that get revealed within the first half of the goddamn movie. And it does also reach a pretty silly conclusion, which, yes, I guess sort of ties things together with something that Damien revealed earlier. And it also features like a bit of an epilogue, shall we say, where I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess it goes back to a question that is posed earlier in the movie. The problem is, well before that, I checked out. So I did not really care for this movie. I see potential, with the crew and with, the cast, to do, better projects. This isn't the worst thing I've seen, but the biggest sin they committed was it was really, really boring. I mean, really, really boring. I'm sorry, this didn't gel for me. That being said, I'm going to get into spoilers, so check it out on Shudder if you want to. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, yeah, she's talking to her doctor, Alex is, and Then she talks about how her dad was abusing her mom. The opening music was certainly a fun choice. Sounded like somebody was banging their head on a goddamn keyboard at points. Damien's mother is in an institution. Well, she'll be well taken care of. This movie should have been well taken care of, like possibly put out behind a tool shed like Old Yeller. That's mean, also not. So, nevertheless, we get the usual, things like Damien is kind of hidden about his past. He does tell a story about, like, there's this castle, this old castle, worn out castle near the house, and something about, there was an old lady that had twins. They seemed like identical twins, but one was good, one was evil. This is according to a banshee, because why wouldn't a banshee be mentioned here? Look, I know nothing about Irish folklore, but banshees always seem to get fucking mentioned in these movies, at least like 85% of them. So, there's the castle with the past and everything. The lady basically had to pick between one of two, one of two to save. Like, one kid got sick, and you choose one, you can save the other. That was, glossed over really quickly. There was a guy named Callum that became, he became, a clan chief, which means something totally different over there, by the way. Just want to say that. And he was one of Damien's ancestors. And yeah, the house is nice. It's rustic. It is what it is. And then they have a bit of the sex. Zara would be hard to resist because she is a very attractive woman, but it ends up where she ends up pregnant. And then he starts to act a little bit weird. He gets besieged by a woman at this shop, or this little corner mart, or whatever they fucking call them over there. I think they have Tesco's over in the UK. I don't know if they have them in Ireland. But who hasn't been besieged by a woman that we don't recognize with a weird hat? Who hasn't had that happen to them? So there is a boarding school 3 miles away. I'm going to spoil it right now because not only am I in the spoiler section, but fuck you. It is not a boarding school. It is a reformatory for very troubled youths, as it were. The family used to hunt and skin animals. He never did that. That's why he would watch, but that's why they became vegetarians. Also, there are these hunter guys. One guy seems to know Damien rather well. Gee, wonder if that goes back to the reformatory stuff. And yeah, there's one called Dee Dee that did not get out of Dexter's laboratory, as it were. And Damien's on sleepwalking and wakes up and says, "Someone is watching us." Yes, the cameraman. You're in a goddamn movie. Mrs. Miller is visited while she's in the institution, as it were, and Alex is talking to her, but, Mrs. Miller, by the way, is Damien's mother. She refers to the fact that she has a daughter, Lily, that is not there, but maybe she only sees her get dementia, unfortunately. It's a very unfortunate condition. Not really explored in this movie, but it is an unfortunate condition. And then, yeah, Damien starts burning his old stuff, acting weird. Mrs. Miller also mentioned that the evil is in the blood. She knows that Alex is pregnant. And yeah, I wonder if it's Damien. It's obviously Damien. The thing is the movie doesn't really deviate from that, but it tries to explore why it's Damien. She's a bit unsettled. He's unraveling. She refers to something called somnambulism. Google it, kids. And talk to her therapist about it. The therapist from the beginning of the movie. She used to drink. She doesn't anymore. Damien starts acting a little bit weird. And then weirder. And then the hunters, attack her, seemingly. Dee Dee, the one that knows Damien, managed to, pin her down. I thought we were going to get one of those scenes. It was going to get even worse. We didn't get that. It was just more of a warning. Could have easily cut 20 minutes, is what I wrote a few times on my notes. That's nothing against the talent behind the camera or in front of the camera, but this dragged. So, Dee Dee ends up dying. Damien is eating meat again and acting really weird. There's a doctor that shows up. A doctor that has a past with Damien, and it turns out this doctor actually worked at this reformatory, was conducting experiments on children. All this is revealed within the last 30 or so minutes, by the way. And Yeah, he did experiments on children to try and get the evil out of them, but all he did was put evil into them with these horrid experiments. And he was acquitted of all these charges, but Damien is still alive. And you could argue, by the way, that Damien maybe was the evil child, going back to that whole thing that was talked about with the Banshee, not of Inisherin, which is a good movie, talking about, choose one child. So, yeah, then that other hunter guy shows up, the one that was from earlier. Damien shoots him. Damien then ends up tying down Alex, because earlier Alex had actually left Damien tied up to make sure that he didn't escape, during the night to do more sleepwalking murders, and then left him tied up. I wouldn't mind being tied up by a beautiful Irish woman. I just want to say that right there. I don't have issues. You guys have issues. But he then has Alex tied up, and then apparently the doctor's there, and he scalps the doctor, or beats up the doctor. He does a lot of weird shit. It could have been the hunter for all I goddamn know, because the scene was so badly goddamn edited. Nevertheless, it's not important for the purposes of this equation. Damien is getting revenge on all this. Mrs. Miller is suddenly there, because he brought her home, because he wants his mother to remember what she did. She sent him away to the Reformatory because Lily was actually shot in a hunting accident, and Damien accidentally shot her, not realizing that a deer was, it wasn't just the deer that was standing there. Clearly, I think Damien was always goddamn evil, but let's just roll with it. So then he ends up choking out his mother. Alex gets free to do what she wants, like stab him in the neck or shoulder. And then she escapes up to the castle. Instead of, I don't know, getting in the car and leaving, she basically gets up to the goddamn castle. He ends up shooting her in the shoulder, says, "Oh, come to me," this kind of stuff. And mind you, she's pregnant this whole time, even though this only takes place over a few days or weeks or whatever. But then she ends up hitting him, and then hitting him with a rock, further proving that the Princess Bride method always works. And then his head was in range, she kept hitting him with the rock. And yeah, then he falls off the goddamn side and dies, and then she seemingly dies. But oh no, we get an epilogue where a number of years later, she has her kid, Simon, and Simon's seemingly okay. Until he's not. He's swinging on the swing later, and he's just looking with that faraway look in his eyes. Oh no, the child is evil. Don't do Nightman 2 Electric Simon Boogaloo. Look, I'm sorry, despite some decent performances and a few decent shots, this gets an F. It was boring. This was really, really boring. I don't mind slow burn horror, but you got to have a decent payoff, a payoff that isn't really seen coming from 5 miles away. We're 50 kilometers away since we're over in the UK. Nevertheless, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Oh, yeah, F. Sorry, F. So, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.